The mining colony of Zarian 7 was a testament to galactic engineering. Vast extractors pulling precious metals from the planet's core, while colonists lived in comfortable domed cities above. At least it had been comfortable until 3 days ago when something went horribly wrong. 18 dead, 47 injured. Commander Vector of the Colonial Security Forces briefed them as the healing light settled onto the landing pad. The creatures appeared overnight. We've never seen anything like them. Through the shuttle's viewport, Zixara could see the aftermath of whatever had happened. Buildings were damaged, emergency barriers had been erected around entire sections of the colony, and security patrols moved in heavily armed groups. "Tell us about these creatures," Sarah said, her translator converting her words for the commander. Even after just a few days, her grasp of galactic common was improving rapidly. Massive beasts, roughly 4 meters long, covered in natural armor plating. They move incredibly fast despite their size, and their claws can cut through reinforced steel. We've tried everything. Energy weapons, sonic deterrents, even military-grade sedatives. Nothing works. Sarah frowned as she studied the security footage on her tablet. The creatures were indeed formidable. 8-legged, heavily armored, with what appeared to be natural weapons on their limbs. But something about their behavior troubled her. "Have you tried to determine where they came from?" she asked. "The mining tunnels, obviously. We must have disturbed a nest or breeding ground. The extraction crews probably woke them up." But Sarah was shaking her head. "Look at their movement patterns. They're not attacking randomly. They're following specific routes. And see here?" She pointed to a section of footage where one of the creatures had stopped in front of a damaged water main. "It's drinking." "So?" Commander Vector asked. "Predators don't stop to drink in the middle of a hunt," Sarah explained. "These creatures aren't attacking your people. They're looking for something. Water, food, or..." She paused, studying the footage more carefully. "Are any of your colonists missing?" "Missing? What do you mean?" "Not dead, missing. People who were there one day and gone the next with no bodies found." Commander Vector's expression grew troubled. "Well, yes. 3 miners from the deep shafts. We assumed the creatures had consumed them." Sarah's eyes widened. "Commander, I don't think these creatures are trying to hurt your people. I think they're trying to save them." The suggestion was met with stunned silence. The idea that the massive armored beasts terrorizing the colony might actually be trying to help was beyond comprehension for most galactic species. "Dr. Chen," Dr. Mordak said carefully, "these creatures have killed 18 colonists." "Have they?" Sarah asked, pulling up the casualty reports. "Or did 18 colonists die during encounters with these creatures?" "There's a difference." She began analyzing the incident reports with the methodical precision that made her such an effective veterinarian. Each case was examined, each injury pattern studied. "Look at this," she said, highlighting sections of the medical reports. "These aren't claw marks from attacks, they're surgical incisions. Precise, calculated cuts designed to remove something. And here, this colonist survived but reported being examined by one of the creatures before it left." "Examined how?" Zixara asked, though she was beginning to suspect where Sarah's logic was leading. "The creature used some kind of natural sensor, probably bioelectrical, to scan his body. Then it made a small incision, removed something, and sealed the wound before leaving." The medical team exchanged glances. It sounded impossible, but Sarah's track record for understanding animal behavior was already proven. "You're suggesting these creatures are performing medical procedures?" Commander Vector asked skeptically. "I'm suggesting they're trying to help in the only way they know how." "Commander, what kind of mining are you doing here? What are you extracting?" "Rare earth elements, primarily. Some radioactive materials for power cores. Nothing dangerous with proper shielding." "Radioactive materials," Sarah repeated. "And you're missing miners? They worked in the deep shafts near the radioactive deposits?" "Yes, but we have safety protocols. Full protective gear, regular health screenings." "When was their last health screening?" Commander Vector checked his records. "About 2 months ago. We're a small operation, and the medical supply ship was delayed." Sarah closed her eyes, pieces of the puzzle falling into place. "Your miners have radiation poisoning. The creatures detected it and are trying to remove the contaminated tissue before it kills them." The silence that followed was profound. The idea that alien creatures might have better medical diagnostic capabilities than their own scanners was deeply unsettling. "That's impossible," Dr. Mordak protested. "Our medical technology would have detected radiation poisoning." "Would it?" Sarah asked. When was the last time your scanners were calibrated for the specific isotopes being mined here? The uncomfortable silence gave her the answer. I need to see one of these creatures, Sarah announced. If I'm right, they're not monsters, they're doctors. And they're probably just as frustrated with the communication barrier as we were. Absolutely not, Commander Vektar said firmly. Those creatures are extremely dangerous. So are frightened horses, Sarah replied calmly. So are injured elephants and confused tigers and every other animal I've ever treated. The key is approaching them correctly. Over the next hour, Sarah laid out her plan with the same methodical care she brought to treating Earth animals. The approach would be slow, non-threatening, and designed to communicate peaceful intentions to creatures that might be intelligent enough to understand. You're asking us to walk into a den of apex predators, Zixara said, though there was more excitement than fear in her voice. I'm asking you to walk into a makeshift medical facility run by doctors who don't speak our language, Sarah corrected. There's a difference. The first test came when they entered the sealed-off section of the colony. The damage was extensive, but as Sarah had predicted, it followed specific patterns. The creatures had torn through walls and barriers, but only those blocking access to areas where colonists had been detected. There, Sarah whispered, pointing down a corridor where a massive armored form lay curled in what had once been a supply closet. It's resting but not sleeping. See how its sensory organs are still active? The creature was even more impressive up close. Its natural armor gleamed like polished metal, and bioluminescent patterns along its sides pulsed with a slow, rhythmic light that reminded Zixara of a heartbeat monitor. It's beautiful, she breathed. Most apex predators are. Sarah agreed. Now watch this. She took a step forward, moving with the same calm deliberation she'd shown during first contact on Kepler Station. The creature's head turned toward them immediately, and its bioluminescent patterns shifted to a faster, more alert rhythm. Sarah stopped moving and simply stood there, projecting the same peaceful energy that had worked so well with the medical team. After several tense minutes, the creature made a sound, a complex harmonic tone that seemed to come from multiple vocal chambers. It's scanning us, Sarah realized. Some kind of bioelectrical field. It's checking our health. The scan lasted nearly a minute, then the creature's patterns shifted again. The rapid alert pulsing changed to something slower, more relaxed. We passed the medical exam, Sarah said with a grin. It's determined that we're healthy and not in immediate danger. How do you know that? Dr. Kellen asked. Same way I know when a horse decides I'm not a threat. Body language, energy patterns, and a lot of experience reading animal behavior. The creature rose to its full height, nearly 4 meters tall, and took a step toward them. Every instinct screamed at the medical team to run, but Sarah remained perfectly still. Easy, she said softly, not to the creature, but to her companions. It's just curious. What happened next would be replayed in medical schools across the galaxy for generations. The massive armored creature gently extended one of its limbs toward Sarah, and she equally gently reached out to touch it. The moment of contact sent visible energy patterns racing along the creature's bioluminescent displays. It made another harmonic sound, different from the first, and Sarah nodded as if she understood. It wants to show us something, she announced. I think it wants to show us the missing miners. Following an armored alien creature through the depths of a mining colony went against every safety protocol in the Galactic Medical Handbook. Yet here they were, descending deeper into Zarian 7's tunnels, guided by a being that Sarah insisted was trying to help. The creature moved with surprising grace for something so massive, its bioluminescent patterns providing the only light in the darkened corridors. Occasionally it would pause and emit those harmonic tones, and other creatures would answer from the darkness ahead. There are more of them, Dr. Kellen observed nervously. Of course there are, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the obvious danger. You don't perform complex medical procedures alone. They're working as a team. The tunnel opened into a vast natural cavern that the mining operations had exposed, but what they found there defied every expectation. The cavern had been transformed into something that could only be described as a medical facility. Bioluminescent growths had been cultivated along the walls, providing steady, even lighting. Strange organic structures that pulsed with life served as what appeared to be medical equipment, and in the center of it all, 3 human colonists lay unconscious but clearly alive on what could only be described as operating tables made of living crystal. My God, Zixara breathed. They've built a hospital. 6 more of the armored creatures moved through the space with the practiced efficiency of a surgical team. Some tended to the unconscious miners while others maintained the organic equipment. All of them stopped what they were doing when the newcomers entered. Easy, everyone, Sarah said, though whether she was addressing her companions or the alien medical team wasn't clear. We're all doctors here. The largest of the creatures approached them, and Sarah noticed that its bioluminescent patterns were different from the others, more complex, with additional colors. A chief of medicine, perhaps, or simply the most experienced practitioner. When it began its bioelectrical scan, Sarah stood perfectly still and allowed it. The scan was more thorough this time, and she could feel the creature's energy field examining not just her health but her intentions. Apparently satisfied, the creature moved to a section of the cavern wall where symbols had been carved into the rock. The patterns were intricate, mathematical, and unmistakably medical in nature. It's trying to show us their diagnosis, Sarah realized. Those symbols, they're describing the condition of the miners. Dr. Mordak approached the wall carefully, studying the alien medical notation. If Dr. Chen is correct about these being medical records, then this is extraordinary. Look at the detail, the precision of these calculations. The lead creature seemed to understand their interest. It moved to another section of wall and began carving new symbols, this time describing the treatment they were providing. Radiation poisoning, Sarah translated, working out the alien medical notation with growing excitement. Severe contamination in the bloodstream and soft tissues. They're using some kind of biofiltration process to cleanse the contaminated cells. Biofiltration? Zixara asked. Look at those organic structures. They're not just equipment. They're living filters designed to process contaminated biological material and return healthy tissue to the patients. The implications were staggering. These creatures had developed medical technology that was completely biological, using living organisms as surgical and diagnostic tools. It was unlike anything in the galactic medical database. One of the smaller creatures approached Dr. Kellen and began its own harmonic communication. The xenobiologist stood frozen as the creature's scanning field washed over him, then made excited sounds as it detected something. It's found something, Sarah said, watching the creature's reaction. Dr. Kellen, have you been experiencing any unusual symptoms lately? Fatigue, nausea, difficulty concentrating? Well, yes, but I assumed it was just stress from the mission. You've been exposed to the same radiation that affected the miners, Sarah concluded. Probably during your initial scans of the contaminated areas. These creatures can detect it at levels far below our instrument's sensitivity. The small creature was already preparing what appeared to be a treatment, secreting some kind of bioluminescent fluid from specialized glands. When it offered the substance to Dr. Kellen, he looked to Sarah uncertainly. It's medicine, she said confidently. They wouldn't have gone to all this trouble to hurt us, Dr. Kellen. You're looking at the most advanced radiation treatment in the galaxy. Taking the offered substance required an act of faith that went against every safety protocol, but Dr. Kellen had seen enough to trust Sarah's judgment. The bioluminescent fluid tasted surprisingly pleasant, with a mineral tang that reminded him of natural spring water. Within minutes, the fatigue that had been plaguing him for weeks began to lift. His thinking became clearer, and the low-level nausea that he'd attributed to stress disappeared entirely. Incredible, he whispered. I feel better than I have in months. The lead creature made satisfied harmonic sounds and returned to its wall carvings, adding new symbols that seemed to indicate successful treatment of a 4th patient. They're keeping medical records, Zixara observed. Just like we do. More than that, Sarah said, studying the growing collection of symbols. They're documenting their techniques for future reference. This is a teaching hospital. The realization hit them all at once. These creatures weren't just treating the immediate crisis. They were studying it, learning from it, and developing new treatments that could be applied to future cases. Dr. Chen, Dr. Mordak said slowly, I think we need to reconsider our entire approach to xenobiology. These creatures have medical knowledge that surpasses our own in some areas. And we have knowledge that could help them, Sarah replied. Look at their patients. They're stable, but the recovery is slow. Our medical technology could accelerate the healing process. What followed was the most unusual medical consultation in galactic history. Using a combination of carved symbols, bioelectrical communication, and Sarah's uncanny ability to interpret alien behavior, the two medical teams began sharing knowledge. The alien doctors were fascinated by the concept of synthetic medications and energy-based healing techniques. In return, they demonstrated their biofiltration methods and showed how living organisms could be cultivated to serve specific medical functions. "This is revolutionary," Zixara said, as she watched one of the creatures demonstrate how the crystal operating tables could monitor and adjust patient vital signs in real time. "We could transform galactic medicine with this knowledge." "Not we," Sarah corrected gently. "Us. All of us working together." The lead creature seemed to understand the spirit of cooperation that was developing. It approached the wall one final time and began carving an elaborate new symbol. Not medical notation this time, but something more abstract. When it finished, the symbol clearly depicted multiple species working together, their different abilities combining to achieve something greater than any could accomplish alone. "I think," Sarah said with wonder, "we've just been invited to join the first interspecies medical alliance in galactic history." The three human miners were already showing signs of recovery, their color returning as the alien biofilters continued their work. Dr. Kellen was feeling healthier than he had in months, and most importantly, a bridge had been built between two completely different approaches to medicine. But as they prepared to return to the surface with news of their discovery, none of them could imagine how this alliance would be tested in the days to come, because somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the pirates who had attacked Sarah's original mission were tracking the rescue ships, drawn by reports of valuable medical technology. And unlike the alien doctors or the frightened colonists, the pirates had no interest in healing anything at all. The attack came without warning, just as the combined medical teams were celebrating their breakthrough. Plasma fire lit up the night sky above Zerion 7 as three pirate vessels descended on the colony, their weapons already charging for another salvo. "All personnel to emergency stations," Commander Vektar's voice echoed through the colony's communication systems. "We are under attack by unknown vessels," but Sarah knew exactly who was attacking them. Through the medical bay's reinforced windows, she could see the distinctive hull markings of the Crimson Brotherhood, the same pirates who had destroyed the Cathani refugee ship. "They followed us here," she said grimly, watching the lead pirate ship's scan beam sweep across the colony. "They're looking for something specific, the medical technology," Zixara realized. "Our breakthrough with the alien doctors, it's exactly the kind of discovery that pirates would kill for." The healing light was already launching, but the medical vessel was no match for dedicated warships. Its defensive shields flared under the pirate assault, and Sarah could see that it wouldn't last long. "We need to get to the cavern," she announced. "The alien doctors and their patients are completely defenseless." "Dr. Chen, that's suicide," Dr. Mordak protested. "Those tunnels will be a death trap if the pirates break through." But Sarah was already gathering medical supplies, her movements quick and efficient despite the chaos around them. "Those creatures saved Dr. Kellen's life and the lives of those miners. I'm not abandoning them to pirates." The first explosion shook the entire colony as the pirates breached the main defensive perimeter. Through the communication system, they could hear security teams reporting heavy casualties and requesting immediate medical assistance. "Doctor?" Commander Vektar's voice was strained. "We need medical teams at the main entrance. Multiple casualties, critical condition. Take half the team," Sarah told Zixara. "I'll go to the cavern with the others." "I'm coming with you," Zixara said firmly. "Those alien doctors taught me more about medicine in one day than I learned in a year of formal training. I won't abandon them either." The journey through the tunnels was a nightmare of collapsing passages and emergency lighting. Above them, the sounds of battle grew closer as the pirates fought their way deeper into the colony. But when they reached the cavern, they found something unexpected. The alien doctors had not fled. Instead, they had organized themselves into what could only be described as a medical triage unit. The three human miners had been moved to a secure section of the cavern, while the creatures themselves were preparing to treat expected casualties. "They're setting up a field hospital," Dr. Kellen observed with amazement. They know there's going to be a battle and they're preparing to treat the wounded. The lead creature approached them with urgent harmonic communications, its bioluminescent patterns flashing in rapid, agitated sequences. Sarah couldn't understand the specific meaning, but the intent was clear. The alien doctors wanted to help. They want to know how they can assist with treating the colonists, she translated. They're offering their medical expertise to help with the battle casualties. The offer was both touching and practical. The alien biofiltration technology could treat injuries that would overwhelm conventional medical facilities. But getting wounded colonists down to the cavern during a battle would be nearly impossible. That's when Sarah had an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. What if we bring the hospital to them? She suggested. These creatures are mobile. Their medical technology is biological, portable. They could set up treatment stations throughout the colony. Dr. Chen, Dr. Mordak said carefully, you're suggesting that we deploy unknown alien creatures into active combat zones to provide medical assistance. I'm suggesting that we deploy the most advanced medical team in the galaxy to save lives. Sarah corrected. The fact that they happen to be armored apex predators is just a bonus. The lead creature seemed to understand the discussion. It moved to its wall symbols and quickly carved new notations: tactical medical deployment patterns, casualty assessment protocols, and what appeared to be combat medical procedures. They know battlefield medicine, Zixara breathed. This isn't their first war. The alien medical team moved with military precision as they prepared for deployment. Some creatures gathered portable bioluminescent lighting systems, while others collected samples of various medical organisms. The largest specimens positioned themselves as escorts, their natural armor and size making them ideal for protecting medical personnel in dangerous areas. How do we coordinate this? Dr. Kellen asked. The security forces will think they're being attacked by the same creatures that terrorize the colony. Sarah was already working on that problem, using her tablet to contact Commander Vectar directly. Commander, this is Dr. Chen. I'm about to send you some very unusual medical assistance. Doctor, we don't have time for... You have 6 armored medical specialists incoming. They're friendly, they're here to help, and they're probably the only thing standing between your wounded and death. Don't shoot them. The first deployment was to the main defensive perimeter, where the heaviest fighting was taking place. 3 of the alien doctors emerged from the tunnels just as a pirate assault team breached the barricades, and the scene that followed would be talked about for decades. The security force's initial reaction was exactly what Sarah had expected: panic, confusion, and several attempts to shoot the approaching creatures. But the aliens' behavior was so obviously medical that even the most frightened colonist couldn't mistake their intentions. One of the creatures immediately moved to a wounded security officer, its bioelectrical scanners assessing the man's injuries, while its companions began setting up a treatment area with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, they had established a fully functional field hospital in the middle of a war zone. Unbelievable, Commander Vectar's voice came through the communication system. The creatures they're saving lives. Private Jackson was dying from plasma burns, and now his wounds are already healing. The pirates, meanwhile, were having their own difficulties with the unexpected medical intervention. Several of their wounded had been captured and were receiving treatment alongside the colonists. The alien doctors made no distinction between friend and enemy. Anyone who was injured received immediate medical attention. They're treating everyone, Dr. Mordak observed, monitoring the situation from the command center. They don't care which side people are fighting for. That's what doctors do, Sarah replied simply. We treat the patient in front of us. The pirate assault began to falter as their wounded were systematically healed and often chose not to rejoin the fighting. The alien medical technology was so advanced that injuries that should have been permanently disabling were healing within hours. But the real game changer came when the lead pirate ship landed and its captain emerged. To assess the situation personally, Captain Razak of the Crimson Brotherhood was a veteran of dozens of raids, but he'd never encountered anything like the alien medical team. What are those things? He demanded of one of his subordinates. Doctors, sir. They've been treating our wounded alongside the colonists. Mark says his leg is completely healed, the one he lost in that reactor accident 6 months ago. Captain Razak stared at the scene before him. His raiders were being systematically healed of old injuries, combat wounds, and chronic conditions they'd carried for years. Several had already approached the alien doctors asking for treatment of non-combat medical issues. "Sir," his lieutenant said hesitantly, "the men are asking if we can negotiate with these creatures. Some of them have medical conditions that conventional treatment can't help." For the first time in his criminal career, Captain Razak was faced with something more valuable than anything he could steal: the promise of health, healing, and freedom from the chronic pain that plagued most career criminals. "Stand down," he ordered quietly. "All units, cease fire and stand down." The battle for Zerion 7 ended not with victory or defeat, but with the most unusual medical conference in galactic history, as pirates, colonists, and alien doctors worked together to heal everyone who needed it. And in the center of it all, Sarah Chen coordinated the treatment with the calm efficiency of someone who had always known that medicine transcended species, politics, and even the law itself. 6 months later, the Zerion Medical Exchange had become the most famous hospital in the galaxy. What had started as a mining colony was now a thriving center for interspecies medical research, where beings from across the known worlds came to experience the revolutionary treatments developed by the Human-Alien Medical Alliance. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the main medical facility, watching the latest group of patients receive treatment in the bioluminescent chambers below. A Veltar crystalline being was having its fractured matrix repaired by alien biofilters, while a gaseous nebulon received treatment for what conventional medicine had deemed an incurable condition. The Galactic Medical Board wants to establish 12 more facilities like this one, Zixara reported, joining Sarah at the observation window. "Every major system is requesting an alien medical team." "And the Kithara?" Sarah asked, using the name they'd finally learned for their alien medical partners. Enthusiastic about the expansion. "Their population is much larger than we initially thought. They have medical teams on hundreds of worlds. They've been working in isolation for millennia, but now—" Zixara gestured at the bustling facility below. "Now they're part of something bigger." The integration hadn't been without challenges. The Kithara medical philosophy was radically different from galactic standard practices. They treated diseases as imbalances in the patient's entire ecosystem, often prescribing changes to environment, diet, and even social relationships alongside their biotechnological treatments. "Dr. Chen," came a familiar voice from behind them. Captain Razak, former pirate and current administrator of the facility's security division, approached with his daily report. "The morning patient roster is ready for your review." The transformation of the Crimson Brotherhood had been one of the most unexpected developments. After experiencing Kithra medical treatment firsthand, most of the pirates had chosen to abandon their criminal careers. Some had joined the colony's security force, others had trained as medical assistants, and a few had even qualified as full medical technicians. "How's the new batch of refugees settling in?" Sarah asked, reviewing the patient list. "Better than expected. The Zephyrian refugees from the border conflicts are responding well to the integrated treatment protocols, and the Kithara have expressed particular interest in their unique physiology. The facility now served not just as a hospital but as a refuge for beings displaced by conflicts throughout the galaxy. The combination of advanced medical care and the colony's remote location made it an ideal sanctuary for those who had nowhere else to go. "There's something else," Razak added, his expression growing serious. "We've received a communication from the Galactic Council. They want to send an official delegation to evaluate the facility." Sarah and Zixara exchanged glances. The Galactic Council's involvement could be either beneficial or disastrous, depending on their intentions. "What kind of evaluation?" Zixara asked. "They're calling it a comprehensive assessment of non-traditional medical practices and their potential security implications," Razak quoted. "In other words, they're nervous about alien medical technology being distributed across the galaxy." The concern was understandable. The Kithara biomedical technology was revolutionary, but it was also largely incomprehensible to conventional science. The idea of living medical equipment that could adapt and evolve was deeply unsettling to regulatory bureaucrats. "When do they arrive?" Sarah asked. 3 days. Full diplomatic entourage, plus medical evaluators, security assessors, and what appears to be a xenobiology team. As if summoned by their conversation about bureaucratic challenges, Dr. Kellen burst into the observation deck with obvious excitement. "Sarah, you need to see this," he said, practically vibrating with enthusiasm. The Kithera have made another breakthrough. They followed him to the research section of the facility, where several Kithera medical specialists were working with conventional galactic medical equipment. The collaboration had produced some remarkable innovations, but what Dr. Kellen showed them was beyond anything they'd achieved before. They figured out how to integrate their biotechnology with our energy-based systems, he explained, gesturing at a treatment chamber that seemed to combine living Kithera organisms with conventional medical scanners and healing fields. The possibilities are endless. We could treat conditions that neither of our medical traditions could handle alone. Neural disorders, genetic conditions, even aging itself might be reversible. The demonstration patient was an elderly Altarian merchant who had volunteered for the experimental treatment. His advanced age had left him frail and barely mobile, but after just one session in the hybrid treatment chamber, he was already showing signs of renewed vitality. Incredible, Zixara breathed. But the Galactic Council is going to be terrified of this. Why? Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Because this isn't just medicine anymore, Zixara replied. This is enhancement. If the Kithera can reverse aging, cure genetic disorders, and treat previously incurable conditions, they're not just healing people, they're improving them. The implications were staggering. The technology could eliminate disease, extend lifespans, and potentially enhance physical and mental capabilities beyond natural limits. It was exactly the kind of advancement that would either revolutionize galactic civilization or tear it apart. We need to be very careful how we present this to the Council delegation, Sarah said thoughtfully. The last thing we want is for them to decide this technology is too dangerous to allow. Agreed, Razak added. I've seen enough bureaucrats to know that they're more afraid of change than they are of problems. If they think this technology threatens the established order, his concern proved prescient. The Galactic Council delegation arrived exactly on schedule, and their reaction to the Xerion medical exchange was everything Sarah had feared it would be. Counselor Velnara, the delegation's leader, spent exactly 30 minutes touring the facility before declaring it a clear violation of established medical protocols and a potential threat to galactic stability. This collaboration with unknown alien entities represents an unacceptable risk, she announced during the formal evaluation session. We cannot allow unregulated medical technology to spread throughout civilized space. With respect, Counselor, Sarah replied. This technology has saved thousands of lives and cured conditions that conventional medicine couldn't touch. That's precisely the problem, Velnara responded. Medical technology that surpasses our understanding is inherently dangerous. We have no way to control it, no way to regulate it, and no way to ensure it won't be misused. The debate that followed was heated and public, broadcast across the galaxy as different species took sides on the question of medical advancement versus regulatory control. Some praised the revolutionary treatments and called for immediate expansion of the program. Others demanded strict oversight and limited access to the technology. In the end, it was the patients themselves who provided the most compelling argument. Beings who had been dying, suffering, or disabled spoke passionately about their recovery and the hope that the treatments represented. But it was the Kithera's own response that ultimately swayed the decision. The lead Kithera medical specialist approached the council delegation with a proposal that no one had expected. Through careful translation, the alien doctor offered to teach the council's medical experts their techniques, to share their knowledge openly and completely. They requested only that the treatments continue to be provided to anyone who needed them, regardless of species, politics, or ability to pay. You're willing to give away technology that's worth more than entire star systems? Counselor Velnara asked in amazement. The Kithera's response, when translated, was simple. We are doctors. This is what doctors do. The vote wasn't even close. The Galactic Council unanimously approved the expansion of the Xerion Medical Exchange Program, establishing it as the galaxy's first officially recognized interspecies medical collaboration. As the delegation prepared to leave, Sarah found herself standing once again at the observation deck, watching the bustling activity below. Kithera doctors worked alongside galactic medical specialists, treating patients from dozens of different species. Former pirates provided security and assistance. Refugees who had arrived as patients were now training as medical technicians. So what's next? Zixara asked, joining her at the window. Sarah smiled, watching a young Kithera medical student being taught conventional surgical techniques by Dr. Mordak, while simultaneously demonstrating biofiltration methods to a fascinated galactic medical team. Next, we keep doing what we've always done, she said. We treat the patient in front of us. We heal who we can. And we remember that medicine isn't about technology or regulations or politics. What is it about then? Sarah gestured at the scene below. Beings from across the galaxy working together to heal and help each other. Their differences forgotten in the face of their shared commitment to reducing suffering. It's about scared creatures trying to help other scared creatures, she said simply. Everything else is just details. In the treatment chambers below, the bioluminescent patterns of the Kithera medical equipment pulsed. Commander Thrak's office erupted into controlled chaos as alarms began sounding throughout Meridian Prime. The lights flickered again, more pronounced this time, and the commander's tactical display lit up with warnings from every sensor array on the station. Report, Thrak bellowed into his communicator as he rushed to his command console. Sir, we have multiple contacts approaching from the outer rim, came the voice of his sensor operator. They're using some kind of stealth technology. Our sensors are barely picking them up. Thrak's blood ran cold as he studied the tactical display. 7 contacts moving in perfect formation, approaching at a speed that should have been impossible for vessels of their apparent size. What terrified him more was that they had been out there for at least an hour before his sensors detected them. How close are they? Estimate contact in 47 minutes at current approach speed. Lieutenant Vex's voice crackled through the station's communication system from the guest quarters. Commander, we have a situation. The human has revealed her true purpose. She's military intelligence, and she's not alone. Bring her to the bridge immediately, Thrak ordered. Full security escort. As he waited for their arrival, Thrak studied the approaching vessels on his display. Each ship was roughly frigate-sized, but their sensor signatures were unlike anything in the galactic database. They seemed to absorb energy rather than reflect it, making them nearly invisible until they were dangerously close. The bridge doors opened to admit Lieutenant Vex, Dr. Kethis, and the human named Sarah Chen. But the being who walked onto his bridge bore little resemblance to the helpless survivor from the medical reports. She moved with the fluid confidence of a predator, her eyes scanning the bridge's defensive positions and tactical displays with professional assessment. Sarah Chen, Thrak said, making her name sound like an accusation. I assume you're here to explain what those ships want. Sarah looked at the tactical display with mild interest. 7 ships. That's actually fewer than I expected. I suppose they wanted to keep this diplomatic. Diplomatic? Dr. Kethis stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. Those are warships approaching our station. Dr. Kethis, every ship my people build could be considered a warship by galactic standards. We don't have the luxury of building purely civilian vessels. Sarah turned to face Commander Thrak directly. But I assure you, if they meant to destroy this station, you would already be dead. The casual way she delivered that statement sent chills through everyone on the bridge. Thrak realized he was dealing with a species that considered overwhelming military superiority to be normal. What do you want? He asked simply. Information, Sarah replied. Confirmation of galactic capabilities, political structures, potential threats to human expansion. My mission was to evaluate whether the galactic community represents an opportunity or a threat. And your conclusion? Sarah was quiet for a moment, studying the bridge crew with eyes that seemed to catalog every strength and weakness. Mixed. You're technologically advanced in some areas, but your military thinking is decades behind what would be necessary to survive in a hostile galaxy. Lieutenant Vex bristled at the implied insult. Our species have maintained peace for over a century. Maintained peace with each other, Sarah corrected. But what happens when you encounter a species that doesn't share your values? What happens when you meet a civilization that sees your peace as weakness to be exploited? Before anyone could respond, the communications officer called out from his station. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. They're requesting permission to dock. Thrak looked at Sarah, who shrugged. I'd recommend allowing it. My people become significantly less diplomatic when they think their advanced scout might be in danger. How many crew members on each ship? Thrak asked. Roughly 30 per vessel. But Commander, understand that a single human combat team could probably take control of this station if they chose to. My people didn't just evolve to survive harsh environments. We evolved to fight, constantly and effectively. The commander weighed his options. He could try to fight 7 vessels with technology he didn't understand, crewed by beings whose capabilities he was only beginning to grasp. Or he could allow them to dock and hope their intentions were as diplomatic as Sarah claimed. "Patch me through to the lead vessel," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a human face that immediately confirmed Sarah's warnings about her species. The man on the screen looked like he had been carved from stone, with scars that spoke of violent encounters and eyes that held the kind of confidence that came from never having lost a fight. "I am Captain Marcus Webb of the UES. Defiance," the human said in perfect standard galactic. "I'm here to retrieve our advanced scout and discuss potential diplomatic relations with your government. I am Commander Thrak, commanding officer of this station. Your scout has been well cared for, but her presence here has raised some concerns." Captain Webb's expression didn't change. "What kind of concerns?" Thrak decided that honesty was his best option, the kind that come from discovering that your species appears to be conducting military intelligence operations in our space, without authorization. "Commander," Webb replied, "my species doesn't require authorization to defend itself. We've been monitoring galactic communications for decades. We know about the wars, the invasions, the species that have been wiped out because they trusted the wrong people. We chose to be careful." Dr. Kethis stepped forward. "Captain Webb, your scout mentioned that other human colonies have been discovered and attacked. Can you provide details?" Webb's expression hardened. 3 separate incidents over the past 50 years. Each time a human colony was discovered by what your records would call aggressive expansionist species. Each time, we lost everything before we could mount an effective defense. "What happened to the attackers?" Lieutenant Vex asked. Webb's smile was not pleasant. "They learned that attacking humans has consequences. The implications of that statement settled over the bridge like a heavy blanket." Thrak realized he was dealing with a species that had not only survived multiple genocidal attacks, but had apparently retaliated successfully. "Captain, what are your intentions regarding the galactic community?" "That depends," Webb replied, "on whether the galactic community can be trusted to respect human sovereignty." "We're not looking for conquest, Commander. We're looking for security." Sarah spoke up from her position near the tactical display. "Captain, I recommend full disclosure. These people need to understand what they're dealing with." Webb nodded slowly. "Very well. Commander Thrak, humanity currently controls 47 star systems in what you call the Outer Rim. We have a standing military force of approximately 2 million personnel, supported by industrial capability that can produce warships faster than most species can build civilian vessels. The numbers hit the bridge crew like physical blows. 47 systems represented a major power by any galactic standard, but one that had remained completely hidden until now. "But here's what should really concern you," Webb continued. "We've been watching the galactic community for decades, and we've identified at least 3 major threats that your current military forces couldn't handle. Species that are already moving toward your territory, species that will arrive whether you're ready or not." Commander Thrak felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders like never before. He was no longer dealing with a simple first contact situation. He was staring at a species that might represent salvation or destruction for the entire galactic community, and his next decisions could determine which it would be. The docking bay of Meridian Prime had never hosted vessels like the ones that now occupied 3 of its largest berths. The human ships looked deceptively simple from the outside, their hulls lacking the ornate designs favored by most galactic species. But Dr. Kethis could see that every line of their construction spoke to function over form, efficiency over aesthetics. She stood in the observation deck overlooking the docking bay, watching as human personnel disembarked from their vessels. Each member of the delegation moved with the same fluid precision she had noticed in Sarah Chen, but now she understood what she was seeing. These weren't just disciplined soldiers. They were apex predators operating in an environment they considered potentially hostile. Commander Thrak had insisted on full diplomatic protocols for the meeting. Despite Sarah's assurance that humans preferred direct communication, the station's main conference room had been prepared with seating for both species, translation equipment, and recording devices to document what might be the most important first contact in galactic history. As the human delegation entered the conference room, Kethis was struck by their diversity. Captain Webb led the group, but behind him came humans of various sizes, skin tones, and apparent specializations. What unified them was their obvious competence and the way they automatically positioned themselves to cover all approaches and exit routes. "Before we begin," Captain Webb said as everyone took their seats, "I should clarify something. This isn't a first contact situation. Humanity has been in contact with the galactic community for over 60 years. The statement hit the room like a physical blow. Commander Thrak leaned forward, his massive frame tense with implications. "Explain." A woman introduced as Dr. Elena Vasquez spoke up. "We've been monitoring your communications, studying your technology, and observing your political structures since 2089. We've had covert personnel in various galactic installations for decades." Lieutenant Vex's antennae twitched with alarm. "How many installations?" "Enough to understand that the galactic community faces threats it doesn't recognize," Dr. Vasquez replied. "Captain Webb mentioned 3 major threats approaching your territory. We've been tracking them for years." Sarah Chen activated a holographic display that showed a 3-dimensional map of local galactic space. 3 red arrows pointed toward the established galactic territories from different directions. "The first threat comes from the galactic north," Sarah explained. "A species we call the Devourers. They consume entire biospheres, leaving dead worlds behind them. They've already destroyed 17 systems in their path toward galactic space." The display zoomed in to show a trail of dead systems, each marked with the date of its destruction. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The attacking force was moving steadily toward the heart of galactic civilization. "The second threat approaches from the galactic west," Captain Webb continued. "The Hive Collective. They convert conquered populations into drone workers, essentially enslaving entire species. They've been expanding for centuries, and their territory now includes over 200 systems." Dr. Kithis felt sick as she studied the data. "How do you know all this?" "Because we've fought them," Webb replied simply. "Human colonies have encountered both species. We've learned their capabilities the hard way." "And the third threat?" Commander Thrak asked, though his voice suggested he wasn't sure he wanted to know. "The Purifiers," Dr. Vasquez said, her expression grim. "They believe the galaxy should be cleansed of what they consider inferior species. They use biological weapons designed to target specific genetic markers. 3 human colonies fell to them before we developed countermeasures." The conference room fell silent as the implications sank in. The galactic community had been living in blissful ignorance while existential threats approached from multiple directions. "Why didn't you warn us?" Dr. Kethis asked. "Would you have believed us?" Sarah countered. "An unknown species claiming that massive threats were approaching, demanding access to your military resources and strategic information? Or would you have assumed we were the threat?" Commander Thrak studied the tactical data with growing dread. "How long before these threats reach galactic space?" "The Devourers will reach the outer colonies in approximately 18 months, Captain Webb replied. "The Hive Collective is maybe 2 years out. The Purifiers are the wild card because they use stealth technology, but our estimates put them at 3 to 4 years. Lieutenant Vex asked the question everyone was thinking. "What do you want from us?" "Alliance," Webb said simply. "Humanity can't fight all 3 threats alone, and the galactic community can't survive them without our help. We propose a mutual defense agreement with full technology sharing and coordinated military response." "What makes you think humanity can help?" Commander Thrak asked. "You're talking about threats that have conquered hundreds of systems." Captain Webb's smile was predatory. "Commander, my species evolved on a death world. We've been fighting for survival since we developed consciousness. War isn't something we do. It's what we are." Dr. Vasquez pulled up another display, this one showing human military capabilities. "Our ships are designed for combat effectiveness, not comfort. Our soldiers are trained from childhood to operate in hostile environments. Our industrial capacity is focused on producing weapons and defensive systems. Most importantly," Sarah added, "we've already fought these enemies and won. We know their weaknesses." The data was staggering. Human weapons technology appeared to be decades ahead of galactic standards. Their ship designs optimized for combat rather than exploration. Their military organization built around the assumption of constant warfare. "You're asking us to trust you," Dr. Kethis observed. "But you've been spying on us for decades. You've infiltrated our installation, studied our weaknesses, positioned yourselves to take advantage of our ignorance. Yes, Captain Webb replied without apology, because that's what survival requires. Dr. Kethis, my species has learned that trust is earned through shared struggle, not through speeches and treaties. What kind of alliance are you proposing? Commander Thrak asked. Full military integration, Webb replied. Human commanders working with galactic officers, shared intelligence networks, coordinated defense strategies. We provide combat expertise and advanced weapons technology. You provide industrial capacity and personnel. And if we refuse? Webb's expression didn't change. Then we'll defend human space and leave you to face the threats alone. We won't sacrifice our people for those who won't stand with us. The brutal honesty was somehow more reassuring than diplomatic platitudes would have been. Dr. Kethis realized that the humans weren't trying to conquer or control the galactic community. They were offering a partnership based on mutual survival. There's something else you need to understand, Dr. Vasquez said quietly. These threats we've described? They're not the worst things out there. They're just the ones we know are coming. She pulled up a star map showing the deep galactic regions beyond explored space. The galaxy is vast and most of it remains unexplored. Humanity has encountered things out there that make the Devourers look manageable. But here's what should give you hope, Sarah added. Humanity has survived everything the galaxy has thrown at us. We've fought off invasions, survived plagues, adapted to environments that would kill most species. We're still here, still fighting, still growing stronger. Commander Thrak looked around the room at his officers, seeing his own thoughts reflected in their faces. The galactic community had lived in peace for over a century, but that peace had made them complacent. They weren't prepared for the kind of warfare the humans described. If we agree to this alliance, he said slowly, what happens to galactic independence? To our way of life? You keep them, Captain Webb replied. Humanity isn't interested in ruling the galaxy. We just want to make sure there's still a galaxy left to live. In the simple statement carried more weight than any elaborate treaty. Dr. Kethis realized that they were facing a choice between adaptation and extinction, between accepting humanity as allies or facing annihilation alone. The question was whether the galactic community would have the wisdom to choose survival over pride. 6 months after first contact, Dr. Zara Kethis stood in the transformed medical bay of Meridian Prime, watching human and galactic medical personnel work side by side to treat wounded soldiers returning from the first joint military operation against the Devourer Advance Force. The integration had not been easy. The Galactic Council had debated for weeks before accepting humanity's alliance proposal, with several species arguing that the threats were exaggerated and the cure might be worse than the disease. Those debates had ended abruptly when a Devourer scout force had wiped out the Zerian colony, leaving behind a dead world stripped of all organic matter. Now Zara watched as human medics treated a wounded Gorvian soldier with the same efficiency they showed their own people. The sight would have been unimaginable 6 months ago, but the Alliance had proven that cooperation was possible, even between species as different as humans and the established galactic races. Dr. Kethis, called Dr. Elena Vasquez, approaching with a datapad in her hands. The human doctor had become her closest colleague during the integration process, sharing medical knowledge that had revolutionized galactic understanding of combat medicine. How are the casualties? Zara asked, though she could see the answer in Elena's tired eyes. Lighter than expected, actually. The joint tactics are working better than our most optimistic projections. Elena pulled up a battlefield report. Human close combat specialists supported by Catharian technical expertise and Gorvian heavy weapons. The Devourers didn't adapt to the combination in time. The first joint operation had been a test of everything the Alliance had worked toward. 3 human frigates, 2 Catharian technical support vessels and a Gorvian battlecruiser had intercepted a Devourer advance force before it could reach the Altair system. The victory had been decisive, but more importantly, it had proven that the different species could fight effectively together. Commander Thrak entered the medical bay, his massive frame showing signs of the stress that had marked all senior officers since the Alliance began. Behind him came Captain Webb and Sarah Chen, both of whom had become permanent liaisons to the Galactic Command structure. Status report, Thrak requested. 73 wounded, 12 critical, 3 fatalities, Elena replied. All 3 casualties were human. They died covering the retreat of wounded Catharians, Captain Webb added. Their sacrifice saved 8 lives. The simple statement carried enormous weight. In 6 months, humans had gone from mysterious strangers to trusted allies willing to die for galactic personnel. The transformation had not been without friction, but combat had a way of burning away prejudices and revealing character. "What's the strategic situation?" Dr. Keithis asked. Sarah activated a holographic display showing the local galactic region. "The Devourer advance has been stopped for now, but they're regrouping for a major push. Intelligence suggests they're bringing in their primary fleet." "How major?" Commander Thrak asked. "Over 400 vessels," Webb replied grimly. "More than we can handle with current force levels." "But," Sarah continued, "we've had a breakthrough in our analysis of their technology. Dr. Vasquez's medical research combined with human combat data has identified a critical weakness." Elena stepped forward, her expression mixing excitement with exhaustion. "The Devourers use biological integration to control their ships. The organic components are incredibly efficient, but they're vulnerable to a specific type of electromagnetic pulse that doesn't affect conventional technology. We can build weapons that target their biological systems without damaging our own ships," Webb explained, "but we need the industrial capacity of the entire galactic community to produce them in sufficient quantities." Commander Thrak studied the data with growing amazement. 6 months ago, the galactic community had been living in ignorance of the threats approaching their space. Now they were developing weapons to fight enemies that had seemed unstoppable. "What about the other threats?" he asked. "The Hive Collective has accelerated their approach," Sarah replied, updating the display. "They're apparently aware of our alliance and consider it a threat to their expansion plans." "And the Purifiers?" "No change in their timeline, but we've detected increased reconnaissance activity in the Outer Rim. They're studying our capabilities." Dr. Kethis looked around the medical bay, watching human and galactic personnel working together with practiced efficiency. "Elena, when you first arrived, I could barely understand how your species had survived. Now I'm beginning to think the galaxy is lucky you did." Elena smiled tiredly. "Zara, you species have something we've been looking for our entire history. Stability, peace, the ability to build something lasting. We can teach you to fight, but you're teaching us to live for something beyond survival." The observation was more profound than it first appeared. The alliance had changed both sides in ways that went beyond military cooperation. Humans were learning that not every problem required a violent solution, while galactic species were discovering that sometimes violence was the only solution that worked. "Status report from the Outer Rim," came a voice from the communication system. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving toward galactic space. Multiple vectors, unknown origin." The medical bay fell silent as everyone realized what that might mean. Either their enemies were approaching faster than expected, or something new was heading toward the Alliance. Captain Webb was already moving toward the bridge. "Sarah, get me a connection to Earth Command. If we're facing multiple threats simultaneously, we need to accelerate the deployment schedule." As the humans rushed to respond to the new threat, Dr. Kethis found herself thinking about the scans she had run 6 months ago. At the time, she had wondered what kind of world could produce creatures like humans. Now she understood that Earth hadn't just produced survivors. It had forged protectors. The galaxy was about to face its greatest test, but for the first time since learning about the approaching threats, Zara felt something approaching optimism. The Alliance had proven that cooperation was possible between species that had nothing in common, except the will to survive. And if there was one thing humans had taught the galactic community, it was that the will to survive could overcome impossible odds. Outside the viewports of Meridian Prime, human and galactic ships moved in perfect formation toward the Outer Rim, ready to face whatever new threat was approaching. The age of galactic innocence was over, but the age of galactic strength was just beginning. In her medical bay, Dr. Zara Kethis returned to treating wounded soldiers who had proven that sometimes the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy were also the most valuable allies. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she wondered what other surprises humanity might have in store for the enemies that thought they could conquer a galaxy protected by Earth's children. The unknown energy signatures continued their approach, but now they were heading toward a galaxy that was no longer defenseless. They were approaching a galaxy that had learned to fight back.